Do you think we've ever said anything on this podcast that could get us in legal trouble? Well, I know we've had guests who have said things that could get them in legal trouble.
Yeah. Is there a difference, like, because they said it on your show? Are you guys still clear?
So I don't think we're technically, because of the way that the law works. If this was radio, yes, because the FCC, if you broadcast something, then that means that you're endorsing it. It's just like,
really?
Yeah, technically. So.
That sounds like Twitter. So retweet does not equal an endorsement. Okay.
But because everything's going on YouTube or social media, then that falls under social media publication law. So they're not considered a publisher. It's up to the individual at that point.
Okay.
So, yeah, totally different.
We're
nebulous.
Good. Perfect.
Nebulous.
Yeah.
Okay.
I won't.
So the DNR is not going to be knocking on our doors anytime soon.
We hope.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Hopefully we will not get questioned. Is all I'm going to say.
It's kind of wild.
I'll break under pressure in 5 seconds.
You're gonna fold?
Oh yeah.
You're gonna snitch?
Police investigation.
Sarah, I'd be careful what you say
I
around
know.
this guy.
I know.
I don't know if I would snitch.
It was Joe.
Yeah. I'll throw it all
said
on
it first.
Yeah, I'll throw it all on Joe for sure. Yeah. And the thing about it is the cops would believe me, right? So it works. It's a good scapegoat there.
Who are you going to believe, me or this guy?
This wacko. No, I mean, I don't think like I'd be a snitch, but like when it comes to pressure, you know, like one of the things I've thought about before is I could never withstand torture. Could never do it. Right. Just, you know, it's weird. I know that's kind of psychopathic to say. Right. But I've gamed it out, and I've thought it would not take very long. It would not for me. But is that a sign of weakness of character? Is that a sign of just lack of?
Let's ask our guest, Sarah. So what do you think about whether or not he can stand up to torture?
It feels like a deep moral and theological question. It's like a logical question.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
but if you've gamed this out, I mean, I feel like you've already thought so much about this. I don't know how much I can bring to this conversation.
Well, also, I feel like maybe I've lost the game before it's even begun if I've gone in with the understanding that I will break under pressure.
Well, and have you put a counterweight of the information that you're trying to keep secret?
Oh, that's true. Like, what are you trying to?
I haven't. I mean, if I was in the military, say, and I was like a lineman, right, frontline guy, I don't think I
right or left tackle.
Fullback, actually.
You were thinking that too? Yeah.
Maybe because I worked at Public Power, but when I think linemen, I think of the guys up on the power line.
I was actually thinking chess, but that's not right.
Firing on all cylinders today, we are. No, I mean, if
I
was
drinking coffee.
That's counterproductive.
You're drinking nature's coffee, though, so you're fine.
What? Coffee, nature's coffee?
I think apples are technically supposed to have like a similar energy spike.
Wait, really?
Yeah. If I've always heard that if you get anxiety from coffee, one thing you can do is just eat an apple. I think it's probably just the sugar.
Yeah, that would be just sugar. But to tie a knot on it, if I was just a frontline guy, I would probably break. But, you know.
What, to give up, but that means you're going to.
Like to tell a national secret? Or?
Well, no, because at that point, I don't have those national secrets. Right? I'm just a frontline guy. Yeah, if they want to know that's like, are they going to attack tonight or tomorrow? I'll tell them. Right? Yeah, but, you know.
That means you're going to get your boys killed.
Man, don't say it like that. I got to get home to my wife and kids, dude. There's a lot on the line.
I know this is a little macabre, which I guess makes sense because it's autumn now. Ooh. Everybody who's watching, you're feeling the autumn vibes because I am.
Got my fall sweater on.
Yeah. Color coordinated.
The color coordination.
Totally.
I mean, technically, we are with shades of gray.
Yes.
Right.
Sweater. Oh, wow.
To show
really
the moral ambiguity of our podcast.
Yes, exactly. But it's kind of morbid to say, but from what I've heard, if like people who are in the CIA say that it's a matter of time. Everybody eventually breaks. So
I don't know. I'm thinking about all the saint stories that I read growing up.
That's true.
There you go.
Yeah, but the thing is they're dying for our Lord and Savior,
right.
not for
national security.
Not for national security.
I don't know. I had parents and siblings growing up. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, I definitely want to be a martyr someday," and I was like, I read all those stories and I felt like a terrible Catholic. I'm like, yeah, it's definitely not something I wanted to be.
Yeah, listen. There are points in my life where I've thought, maybe dying early in martyrdom would be cool because first off, I get to die. Sweet. Second, everybody's like, that guy's pretty cool. Look at him go. Right.
Oh, gosh, dude.
Real soldier of God.
Yeah.
Right
You
there.
should read a couple of the, you should read some stuff from the Colosseum. I think it'll change your mind a little bit.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. If I can't, anyway. I realize how morbid this conversation is.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, but
we're making it a little less morbid. Has anybody made like the really, I don't know, it seems kind of silly, but I like the idea of someone of the boomer persuasion, or maybe like a Ben Garrison cartoon of like a guy in the Coliseum who's got like a Twitter logo on him, and he's like, "Cancel me." I feel like that very low.
Well,
hanging
if it was Ben Garrison, it would be Donald Trump chained up. You know, like in Gladiator, he'd be chained up, and the Joaquin Phoenix would be replaced by Joe Biden, and he'd walk up to him, and he'd be touching his face, you know, and the implication would be, Biden touches kids, kind of a thing.
Oh my gosh.
I that's what it would be. I'm just being honest,
that's
right?
what if Ben Garrison.
Ben, if you're listening, you probably should get a different profession. But I can't say I love your work, but
Patreon supporter Ben Garrison. That's a joke.
Also, I would just like to insert here. It took me a minute to figure out who you were talking about. I need to get a T-shirt made for myself that says every pop culture reference I know I learned from Monomaniacs. Because you guys talk about so much stuff, and I'm like, gosh, what planet did I live on when I was growing up? Because I didn't know anything about Pokemon. I don't know anything about games that you guys talk about. I didn't play a video game until I was in my teens. Like. Yeah.
If we can help somebody's cultural literacy.
Yeah, but
you guys are doing that for me. I'm like, dang.
Well,
what is Scooby Doo?
Yeah. You got to keep in mind, though, a lot of the pop culture I think that we talk about or ingest is kind of pop culture detritus. It's not what I would consider to be high quality or highbrow stuff.
Still.
That's true. Yeah.
Still.
I mean, isn't it the definition of pop culture is that? I mean, if you're really cynical about it, you could say it's sort of, wasteful in a way.
Yeah.
Like you could be.
But at the same time, I'd be willing to bet, frankly, that you know more about Beatrix Potter than I do. Or
Probably.
et cetera,
Yeah.
right?
And which is more important in the end for your soul, right?
Yeah.
Scooby Doo or
I don't want to offend anybody, so I'm not going to answer that. So.
good.
But I do have an opinion
So
on
we've got
that.
a safe guest who will not say anything that will put us in legal jeopardy. I'm glad.
There you go.
It's true.
What's the Beatrix Potter story about the frog who fishes?
Oh, Jeremy.
Jeremy, something with it's like a fish pun. Right?
Yeah. Well, I want to say Jeremy Fisher, but
I think it's literally Jeremy Fisher.
Jeremy Fisher. Yeah, and he tries to catch fish and it almost eats him. And he's
it's
out
a fun little story. I was a friend of mine. We're actually, I can say Nick Rowan, friend of the podcast. We were in Washington D.C. all hanging out, and he said I was at one of his coworkers at the Lamp had their daughter with them, and they were at this restaurant, and they all met up in D.C. and stuff, and to keep her occupied, they were showing her the Beatrix Potter ballet, because there's this Beatrix Potter ballet.
Wow.
What?
And the section that he saw over her shoulder was the Jeremy Fisher scene, and we all watched it later, and it was one of the funniest things in the world because it's a full frog costume with the huge paper mache head and whatnot.
Nice. I have
The
to go look
dance
this up.
it's not necessarily elegant; it's very frantic. So it looks like a frog is having a nervous breakdown.
But don't all frogs kind of look like that anyway?
It's true.
Some ways.
It's true.
They do look scared.
They have
look a
high
little
anxiety
scared.
eyes.
Yeah.
It's just that they're wide open, looking around.
True. I didn't know there was a Beatrix Potter ballet.
There is.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think there's a video of it too. So.
Okay, I gotta go look this up.
Yeah.
I love Beatrix Potter. I will say, I tried to read a biography of her this year because I was like, I'm gonna learn lots about her.
Yeah.
She's so cool. And I got, I don't know, like 50 pages into it. It was so boring. Her life is fascinating. Like, it's really interesting. And the biography was super detailed, but the narrative wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I think you guys were talking about narrative on the podcast the other day. And there was no narrative on this. And I was like,
That's the funny thing about, especially I like biographies a lot. I, for some reason, can't stand biographies of British people for this reason, because a lot of it's like, and then they spent the summer in Lancashire. And
that is so
they
true.
would often write later of the way that the frogs would hop upon the lily pads.
Yep.
And you're like, all right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, she was really into mushrooms. She knew tons and tons of stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. She was basically semi-professional, but they wouldn't publish her work because she wasn't a man.
Yeah.
And
A
she did.
semi-professional oncologist.
Yeah, and she would do all these drawings. She was self-taught, basically. She did all these really cool, detailed drawings of stuff, and she would just paint from nature. And it was.
Do those mushroom
super
paintings
cool.
exist?
Yeah,
to this
they've got
day?
all that stuff.
Scans and stuff?
No, they're fantasy.
No, they've got all that stuff, and I had a point to make about this, about what we were just saying. I can't remember what it was now.
it's okay.
But
No sweat. Beatrix Potter, mushrooms.
mushrooms.
What more can you say?
That sounds like that'd be a good print.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. Put that up on your wall.
Put that up on your wall.
Big
You
ol'
know,
mushrooms.
There's this trick that I think the man doesn't want you to know, and that's if you find something that's in public domain, like say an old Beatrix Potter print or drawing or whatnot, you can just print it at CVS, and nobody can stop you.
There's not going to be a cop at your door.
Yeah, like I wouldn't suggest doing that for a living artist or somebody who's trying to make money or anything along those lines. But for that, I'm 100%.
I feel like her stuff is in public trust.
Yeah,
I'm sure stuff is at least her Peter Rabbit stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But what's the whole Lake District, actually, you hear about that in like Jane Austen stuff, the Lake District, everybody goes to lakes. That is preserved actually mainly because of Beatrix Potter.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she bought up a lot of that land and she was super into it when she was a well-known sheep farmer when she got older.
Okay, wow.
Went from mushrooms to sheep. And somewhere in the middle, rabbits stole some farmers' carrots. Yeah. A wild story.
Yeah. She had a pet rabbit. So.
Oh, there we go, Peter.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So I don't think its name was Peter. Maybe it was.
That is a missed opportunity, I will say. Yeah. Well, I mean, imagine, coming to go and visit at her wide estate, and being like, hey, you got a pet rabbit, Peter, I presume? And then she would be like, no, you dumb person. Her eyes would just darken. Look at you. No, you think I'm that simple. I think I'm that easy to understand. Guys, we got friggin' Sarah Schutte in the pod today. Dude, welcome. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out. You drove all the way from Ohio.
I did.
It's basically halfway across the world.
It's true. It's so far away.
It's a tough journey.
Yeah.
But welcome. Now, first off, introduce yourself a little bit. What do you do? What's going on with you?
What is going on with me? Well, do I speak to the camera? Do I speak to you? Do I have to look at Shad? Like, what do I do?
It's totally up to you.
Okay.
This is not.
Yeah, I mean, heck, you could look.
This isn't the Jimmy Fallon show.
At the ceiling if you would like. Yeah.
Well, for audio or for the audio quality, I probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I work for National Review magazine now.
Yeah.
So I'm their podcast producer and I'm an associate editor for them. So.
And we were talking a little bit before we started about how you're not used to being behind the mic.
No, I'm not.
On the production side.
Yeah.
So is this something that you'd be interested in doing, or you're just like I don't want to deal with that whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean I would be.
Yeah.
I definitely would be interested, but not talking about politics because I don't talk about politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anything about them.
Which is
I don't
good.
care.
That's good for the soul, right there. Yeah.
It's really good for the soul.
What do they say? Because at the end of every NR podcast, they mention your name. What do they call you? The
incomparable
Sarah Schutte. Thank you to the incomparable Sarah Schutte. So incomparable Sarah Schutte is on our show.
Wow,
it's true.
Wow. Do we get first rights on that? Like, has any other podcast gotten you on it before, or is this the first?
Actually, I was supposed to be on somebody else's podcast a little bit ago. You guys are the first.
Wow. So there you go.
I've been on like one of those little somebody interviewed me like a live webinar sort of thing. But I've never been on a podcast. So
well, there we go.
Well, there you go.
So all the NR completionists are going to have to come watch this show.
Perfect.
I do get emails. So I'm also an editor for them. I think I said that. And so I will send people the stuff I've edited. Be like, hello, so and so. Thank you for your submission. Here are your edits. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll send it off to them.
Yeah.
And then I'll get emails back sometimes, and they'll be like, is this the incomparable Sarah Schutte? She edited my piece. I'm like, maybe.
Incomparably. Incomparably.
I hope you like the edit. Don't yell at me.
So would you say that you have some sense of celebrity then, in a way?
In myself, do I think of myself as a celebrity?
No, I mean, I guess both. Do you would you say that there is the Telos, celebrity Sarah Schutte, or but in the practical sense, do you think it's there?
No, I mean, no. Because people, when they think of NR, they think of like Charlie Cook and Rich Lowry, and they're not going to think about me, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, in that rogues gallery, it's better to be behind the scenes than in front of it.
Though I do write for them occasionally, which is super fun. I write about children's literature. If you couldn't guess from the Beatrix Potter information
that's why I mentioned Beatrix Potter.
There you go.
Yeah, and I love doing that. Sometimes I'll write about music too. Like if somebody in the music world does something dumb or has some ridiculous point, I will try to combat that. But I'll write about children's literature, and I don't think I have a lot of readers, but I do know Charlie Cook told me that someone he knows, who I will not mention, I'm her one of her favorite writers on NR. I got so excited.
Well, how about between now and the Patreon, we'll talk about it. Because I'm very interested to know, who this mysterious individual is.
Yeah, no, seriously.
I know that I cut out 50% of the population because it is a she. So we got that going for us. Shad, we'll figure it out.
That probably broke your NDA right there, just by
all right.
insinuating that.
Well, so you were only on Monomaniacs once in your lifetime, right? That's a fact of life, right? That's what
it's okay. I can only make that cross country trip so many times.
People are born, they go to high school, they go to college, they're on Monomaniacs. they die. Like that's just the cycle of life.
Unless you're Vince Kenyatta, then you don't go to college. I think actually no, our parents didn't go to college, but I'm trying to think he might be the only person who.
Well, we've got people who
degree.
are. Well, Silas is. And
he's
the
in
anime
college.
club are in college.
Yes.
But, not
But he
yet,
doesn't
correct?
have a degree yet.
No,
that's
exactly.
true.
There you go. We're not an elitist podcast, right?
No,
We're not trying to bring on educated individuals exclusively, right? We want everybody here, right? This is for the people, right?
That's why they had me on.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. All right, so I'm gonna ask the question we always ask. This podcast, what is it about? People always, they're like, "Hey, what's Monomaniacs about?" It's about us talking about. It's about us talking about. We're here to discuss what your monomaniacal focus for the previous week has been. Maybe week, maybe month. The thing that you've been, obsessed with, right? And so we bring on a guest to talk about it. And today we've brought on Sarah Schutte. Now, Sarah, please tell us, what is your monomaniacal obsession you'd like to talk about?
Is it okay if it's been a monomaniacal obsession for a year?
Yeah.
Go for it. Yeah.
Birds.
Birds.
Oh, boy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, so are we talking about bird watching, the Audubon Society? What kind of bird situation?
Bird watching.
Bird
and just
watching.
Bird obsession in general.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So
Yeah.
what started this?
What's the
of
genesis?
it? Yeah.
Okay, so I was homeschooled. Shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We worked
I
here
know.
for a while, so
Hey.
Yeah.
You know.
There you go. Shocker. There's a whole genre of individual there, but go for it.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
So my mom would get these bins of books from the library,
Mm-hmm.
and she'd be like, I don't know, she'd just pick a topic in the library and would pick a bunch of books and put them in a bin, and my mom would go pick it up, and then we'd go through it. So we just had we would get all these books on birds, and so we read them growing up, and we had bird feeders outside. We live in suburban Dayton area, so there's, I don't know, a reasonable amount of species. And so they'd come to the front and we'd see them and be like, oh, that's a cardinal, that's a chickadee. And we thought we knew so much. We're like, oh, yes, do you see the way it flies? I know what that is. That looks like a goldfinch.
Yeah.
So we thought we were super sophisticated. Well, then, the beginning of COVID, I moved back to Dayton. And
from NYC,
yes.
which maybe we should talk about a little bit later.
We could definitely
living
talk
it up
about it
in
later.
the NY City.
Yeah.
It's true.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I got made fun of there because this was actually pre-birding obsession.
Yeah.
But I still would notice the pigeons there because they're actually, I don't like pigeons, but they have really cool colors. And if
Yes,
you look
they
at them, sometimes they would be like missing feet and stuff. And so I pointed this out to our secretary at NR, and she looked at me like I had 7 heads. Like, why are you looking at pigeons' feet? And I'm like, I'm sorry. I just thought it was cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Anyway, so moved back home and I got set up on a date, and I was like, okay, fine. But we couldn't go anywhere except outdoors because everything was shut down.
Yeah.
So the second date that we went on, we made it to second date, and
Congratulations.
thanks. But I was like totally stressed about this second date, and I really didn't want to go. I was like, I don't know what to do. And my parents
So
were like, please.
you made it to second date.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was freaking out. My parents were like, please stop talking about this. Just leave.
Yeah. Oh,
So
goodness.
I went, and the only place we could go was this, like, I don't even know where it was. It was like some nature area. We thought there was going to be hiking spots there. So we go out.
Yeah.
We're kind of wandering around. It's actually like a shooting area for wild turkeys.
Well, that's something to do, right?
It is.
Yeah.
We could have done that. We did not do that.
No.
So
you don't strike me as a person to take the life of a bird, right? With a shotgun.
Not on
Correct.
purpose.
No.
Not on
Yes.
purpose.
Oh, yes.
Now, of course, eat a bird, perhaps.
Yes.
Of course.
Okay. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
Chickens. good things.
Turkeys.
Turkeys. I
Yeah.
like turkeys. Duck is it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I've enjoyed the duck I've had.
It's too greasy.
It's
in my
not
opinion.
my favorite.
Yeah,
Everyone's
yeah.
like, oh, duck fat. I'm like,
Well, but duck fat. I'm pro duck fat, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're out on this hike, and we see this. There's like this big pond and like a little boardwalk that you can go out on. So we're like, oh, let's go out on that. It's like 9:00 on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And so we're traipsing out there, chatting about who knows what. And we're standing up on this little observation deck, kind of looking out, and this brother and sister, probably about my age, maybe a little younger, come up, and they've got these gigantic cameras and binoculars, and which, if you're a professional, you call them bins. Apparently, we found this out.
wow.
There's like a whole vocabulary if you're a birder.
Well, that makes sense because, if there is a bird that you need to watch, and somebody's got the binoculars, and that's a lot of syllables for you
It's
to
true.
say. If you've got to get those boys on your eyes right away.
Those
Wow.
bins. Yes.
Yeah, you gotta get those bins.
So yeah, one of the sites I was looking at, literally, they have a whole vocab list of
Yeah.
different things if you're a birder. I can't remember all of them, but bins is on it.
Wouldn't the pronunciation be bines?
Okay.
Why?
Because it's binocular. Well, no.
bins.
no.
I don't know why.
I love how you're trying to be pedantic there.
I'm trying to think. That's why they're called bi. I don't know.
No.
Frick. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
So
you got me.
I
these
did.
birders approach you in the
they come
wild.
up, and then this older couple comes up too, and they start pointing. So I just was being friendly, and I asked them a question about what they were looking at, and then they start pointing stuff out to me, and I'm freaking out because they're like, "Oh yeah, there are yellow warblers over there," and then we got to see. Actually, this was really cool. We got to see, so wood ducks, they usually they're called wood ducks because they they have their nests up in trees, like 50 feet above the ground, and their babies jump out of the tree.
Whoa.
Like they just get pushed out and they fall like 50 feet
into
or
the water, or just
like onto the ground. Yeah, they just like wee.
Yeah.
And I'm not making this up. You can watch. There's really cool videos, but they're built to
bounce.
Withstand. Yeah, they do. They literally bounce.
They have the hollow bones.
Yes. So they, but this one was on the water. There was like a little wood duck house there. And we look out, and there are 11 baby wood ducks just jumping out of this house. And that's, you only get to see that one time in your life, maybe, because they don't go back in. That's the once and done. And you're not going to catch that all the time. So I'm standing there, and I'm freaking out. And these people are lending me their binoculars. I'm getting to use the scopes.
They're bins.
They're bins. I'm sorry. And so I'm seeing all these things that I've never seen before. And this poor guy I'm with is standing behind me. We're up here for like 40 minutes, and then he kind of leans up and he's like, "So can we like go walk around?" I was like, "No." This is like so interesting. So
you came away from your second date in love, but not with him, with birds.
Yeah, it's true.
There you go.
So that's really. So I went home, and my parents were like, "Oh, how was the date?" And I was like, "Oh, it's fine." Did you know at this place are these amazing birds? So didn't see the guy again, but we went back to that spot so many times and saw all kinds of stuff. So because you couldn't do anything else during the pandemic, we just started exploring everything. So we've been on birding trips now. We've gone up to McGee Mars. My mom and I and one of her friends flew to Arizona to go birding. One of my goals is to go. One of the friends that we went with to Arizona, she really loves big birds like hawks and stuff. And the hawk migration is in the fall, like November-ish, maybe right now, actually. It could be a little earlier than that if you go up to like, Minnesota. Yeah. So I really want to go down to Texas and go birding down there. I've been birding in Florida. Everywhere we go.
I guess the real question for this then is there sort of a completionist streak that kind of drives people? Because I know that there's a certain level of, people try to get records for how many birds that they see.
Just over 800 you can see in the U.S.
Okay, 800 birds total?
Different species. Yeah, just over 800.
That seems like small.
Yeah, there's all these rules for what you can see and like what counts and where you can go in the U.S.
Oh, wow.
For this particular list. But that's just if you're doing it in North America. There's lots of other birds, but I only think there's like 14,000 bird species in the whole world.
Oh, wow.
Don't quote me on that. People can look it up. It's okay.
Yeah, that's a lot smaller than I would imagine.
I thought the same thing.
Because I would always imagine, well, especially considering, like, what about subspecies? Does it cut further into subspecies in that area?
No. I don't think so. Okay. Yeah, I haven't looked a ton into that, so I don't know.
You're not here for the big prizes. You're here for the big birds.
Yes, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
No, birds. So there's a completionist aspect to it, right? But
in some ways, yeah.
Have you written down all the different birds?
I have
a
life list.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
what it's called. Life
list. Yeah, it's a life list.
Because what else is life about?
Just birds.
There you go.
Yeah, I've got 230 on my life list now.
Wow,
that's pretty
My mom
good.
has more than I do, though.
Wow.
She's. Well, so you should have her on the podcast to talk about birds because she's way more into it than I am.
So, I have a quick question. So, if people, I imagine, right, and this is me projecting onto a fandom that I'm not a part of, but the bird fandom.
It's real.
Yeah, with the bird fandom. So you've got your life list. You're adding bird species there. There's no necessarily accountability in my mind about whether or not you've actually seen that bird or not. So is there some sort of a check and balance there, or is it all just based off
those
of
rules
trust?
You were talking about earlier where you have to be in a certain location,
yeah,
et cetera?
they have those. I mean, I was actually so amazed. One of the things I love about birding is actually the birding community, and I'm not really close with any of these people, but actually you start to see, if you go to the same places, you start to meet a lot of the same people, and you meet people who have traveled, and it's a really cool community. Of course, you're going to run across not very great people, but we've just been amazed at how interested and interesting everybody is, and they are so encouraging, and they'll explain things. But I mean, people who are in this community, it's wild. They'll like see a bird 2 miles away, and they'll be like, "Oh, did you see how it lifted its left leg? That is a blue-footed, pink-eyed such and so." And you're like, seriously?
That's funny. That's very. I think a part of the ethos of this show too is that monomaniacal. Like this is the thing that I'm about. And that's about birds. And I feel like you run into I don't know. I know you've met all sorts of different people, but I feel like you've probably run into the same white bearded guy with khaki shorts a million times. And chinos or Birkenstocks.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And the hats.
Birkenstocks. Oh, I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah. That was pretty bad. Yeah. Pretty rough. So I have a question. So we were talking about, the completionist aspect. What I'm wondering about is the motivation, right? Is it the fact that you get to see this variety of birds? What is it about bird watching that is the catch? Because this is coming from somebody who doesn't bird watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the thing that motivates you? Is it the beautiful birds, right? Is it the fact that
one would hope?
Yes, obviously, one would hope. I mean, but some people are in it for the money, They're not in it for the love of the game.
How much money there is in this?
But
costs a lot of money to do it. But
I can imagine.
But if you want to travel,
for you, what is the motivation? What do you like about it?
I like that. Well, I like the birds. I like seeing the different species because I didn't know that there were however many kinds of warblers there are. Like that's so cool. I like the smaller birds that are more colorful. Yeah. Because that's me.
There you go.
But I love the
I'm just
beautiful
built
birds.
That way,
What can I say?
Yeah.
But no, I love the beautiful birds. I like the kind of the thrill of the chase in a sense because that is one of the really frustrating things about birding is that you could travel 600 miles to go see one bird and not see it.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is.
Well, especially with shrinking habitats and all that stuff. It must be tougher to be a birder now than it used to be.
Well, and they beg people, especially down in Texas, when right now we follow bird migration tracking systems. I kid you not, it's really cool. But down in Texas, they actually beg people in big cities to do like lights out and stuff. They'll try to do these dark sky things. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but because birds just run into buildings all the time, they lose. Oh my gosh, the number of birds that they lose every year. It's
buildings,
just awful.
Electronic, wind turbines.
Wind turbines. What's the thing out in California that nobody wants to talk about where if birds fly, it's like an energy thing and they concentrate the sun and birds fly, they lose thousands and thousands of birds and environmentalists won't talk about it. And
There's that.
But they're just frying them. Like they just zap them in midair. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. I mean,
it's sci-fi in a way.
The more windows that we put up, the easier it is for a bird to run into the windows.
It's true.
I mean, that's a big problem. It's weird for what is a kind of a universal creature. They're like all over. They're very fragile.
They're
incredibly fragile, right? And I don't know. I was watching this video the other day about parasitic birds, which is a crazy idea. I saw that and I was like, there's no way.
Wait, what is that?
So it's not what you think. It's not like a bird feeding on another bird. It's a little chickadee just wrapped around a hawk, just, sucking
literally
its blood constantly. What it is that there's birds that, and I'm not exactly sure about the specific type, but they lay eggs in nests that aren't theirs.
Oh, yeah.
And then they try to force the bird to raise...
brown-headed cowbirds,
Yeah. And so, there's some that are, they're young or evolved to be really big, so they'll knock the other eggs out, or they'll hatch earlier so they get more attention. There's this kind of evolutionary combat that's gone on, which is really cool, where the patterns on their eggs have, been created to mimic different ones, and they, will mimic exact patterns of specific subspecies of birds. It's pretty wild. But you read about that stuff and you're just astounded, considering that this is an entire animal kingdom, right? Of that. I mean, if the cool thing about birds in my mind, and this is just a layman, I'm not initiated into the rites of bird.
You haven't gone through the ritual.
Yes, exactly. I haven't worn socks and sandals and a safari cap. But
you haven't spent 12 hours doing it with no meals in between. Nonstop.
In the deserts of Arizona trying to find a ground owl.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
The fact that there are ground owls and then there are eagles and then there are chickadees, or there's ones that have developed, basically minor group consciousness with swarms and all this stuff. And you're like, oh my gosh, birds they're everywhere and they do everything.
Yeah.
Birds are out there. That's what they say.
Well, depends. Actually, do you guys know the conspiracy theory about this?
Birds aren't real.
I freaking love this conspiracy theory. I don't believe it, but I really love this because everyone's like, "Have you seen a baby pigeon?" I'm like, "No, I've never seen a baby pigeon." Whoa.
Yeah, well, some people.
If any bird is a drone, it would be the pigeon.
That would be the pigeon. I think the only I mean, I've heard the same thing though about Idaho, where people are like, "Have you ever met someone from Idaho?"
Whoa.
And
yeah.
people are like, "No." And then another one is Finland. People claim Finland isn't real.
Oh, well.
Which I don't know. I mean, I'm more likely to believe Idaho isn't real than Finland.
Same, actually. I don't know why.
Even though we were adjacent to it
Even
for
though
most
I've
of our
been
lives.
to Idaho.
Wait, have you been to Idaho?
I have.
We have,
through Idaho.
but of course, it was all camouflage, right? This was a government conspiracy. They put up signs that said Idaho.
Yeah.
It
was just a bunch of soybean fields and corn, so I can imagine it could have been anywhere.
Do they grow potatoes there?
Yeah.
They actually?
that's what they say. Well, I mean, if it's real.
Yeah.
I mean,
the potatoes real or Idaho?
Yeah.
Who knows? Have you ever had a potato?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. You hope those were potatoes.
So one thing when you mentioned birds that I thought was kind of interesting, because it could kind of, as a history guy, the first thing that I thought of was, we've always sort of had this fascination with them. Augury is a big part of it, right? Where birds were the primary way to, do any sort of divination or et cetera. Like we've constantly had this fascination with birds. I mean, in myth as well, people turning into birds, people trying to be birds and then dying, Icarus, good example.
Yeah, I mean, I would say as a layman, who has not gone through the ritual, that my perspective on that would be the fact that they are flying creatures, right? Like they are so, in a way, alien to us, and the fact that they exist on a separate plane, right, physically. And so I imagine that's where a lot of that fascination comes from. I mean, for a lot of cultures and such. But as a bird watcher, right? Is that an aspect to it? How do you feel about that?
Gosh, yeah, that's a really good point. I don't know. I have to think about that. But yeah,
take your time.
I know. It's like, wow, this is so deep.
Well, while you think about it, top 5 birds.
Ooh, okay. So my favorite bird is
bird number 1.
Wow, I have to rank them.
Number 1.
Bird number 1.
No,
Okay. Now I'm on
5 to 1. 5 to 1.
Number 1. Which way do I have to go?
So number 5 would be your least favorite. Number 1 is your favorite.
Oh.
Out of the 5.
Because I've got a least favorite bird, but it doesn't even deserve to be ranked.
Oh, really?
It's so much.
Is it what do they call it? The Kawakapi or whatever, that ones in New Zealand that are just bad birds? They're like the worst possible bird.
No.
Well, what's your word? Okay, we'll start with least favorite bird.
Isn't even on the list is Canada. Canada goose.
Oh, Canadian goose. Yeah, the rats of the sky.
Oh, that's a good. Oh, I like that term.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's actually what my grandpa used to call sparrows, but.
Yeah. Okay. So that is. I hate sparrows as well.
Yeah.
Okay, not all of them. So did you know that there are like 1,000 different? Not literally. There's so many different kinds of sparrows.
I'd imagine.
And they all kind of look the same.
Yeah.
We call them LBBs, little brown bird. No.
Yeah.
ABBs, annoying brown birds.
Yeah.
You can't tell them apart, but then actual birders, of which I sort of consider myself one sometimes, unless I can't tell what it is, and I'm like, no, I just give up. They're like, oh yes, that is a Lincoln sparrow because of the 3 stripes, and I'm like, it kind of looks like a stripe. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's a 5-stripe sparrow. Oh, this other sparrow, it only hangs out right in this spot here. It doesn't go anywhere else. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll give you my top bird. It's a dark-eyed junco. That is number 1 on my list.
What about the bird? Is it just beautiful bird?
No, it's not super flashy at all. Yeah. It's actually my siblings couldn't pronounce it when they were younger, so they would call it a dork-eyed junco or a junk-eyed dorco. So beautiful. Yeah, so that's what we call it sometimes. But it's this little bird, and I love it because it would only show up. And I knew this before we were really into birding. This was my favorite bird. It would show up only in wintertime. They follow the snow where it goes, so they tend to be further north, and then they'll come south for the winter, but they'll stop in Ohio. And I loved them because we would get a dusting of snow, and they'd come, and they would only hang out on the ground. They don't usually go to feeders, and they would hop around on the ground, so they leave their little tracks. But they're gray on the back, and they've got like a white belly, and they've got a little gray ring, like a black ring around their eye.
Oh, cool. And so, just one of their eyes?
I think it's on both.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's on both.
Their one cyclopean eye that they have in the center of their head.
No. We have not moved on.
Because that would have been my favorite bird too.
Yeah. Bird horrors beyond your imagination.
No. Yeah. So I love that bird so much. Actually, somebody made fun of my favorite bird, and I was like, we're not speaking.
How does one make fun of the bird? It's like, wow, dumb bird. Yeah, I hate this bird.
I told him what it was, and he was like, well, that's a boring bird. And I was like, but okay, never mind.
Yeah. It's like your Patronus did, it's individual and special to you.
Yeah.
Guys,
so sad.
before we move on to more birds.
We're still in the bird rankings.
I know. Well, we're well past the time for this. We got to hit it. Yes, we got to hit it. Guys, we gotta thank our patrons, dude. Yeah. Y'all, we can't do this without our patrons. Their contributions help us do things like get this beautiful equipment, pay, for the the long half the world trip that Sarah had to go on.
That's
you know,
true.
the 17.5 flights that she went on to get here. You know, it's a lot of money, and thankfully you guys cover it. So that's, you know, love you for that. First off, I want to thank our top patrons, Joe Papalardo, Zach and Amber Strehle, and Sammy Roberts. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Could not do this without you. And if you're interested, guys, the $5 tier, you get to listen to the Patreon episodes, right? Which, you know, Sarah can attest. You know, really good content, some of our best. It's behind the paywall though, so you know you got to put the money down to make it happen. You know, and we appreciate that. And at the $10 tier, you can ask us questions, right? Ask us any question, we'll answer it on the pod. Today we got questions directly for Sarah.
Uh-oh.
Right? From first Sammy Roberts and then Joe Papalardo. So first, for Samuel Roberts, what are the best and hardest things about working in the podcast business? Shad and Dylan can answer this one too if they'd like.
Well, you first though.
Yes.
It's a question directly to you. What are the best and hardest things about being a podcast editor?
Best things. Let's see. Well, worst things. Let's see. We'll start with that.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get people to do stuff on time.
That's true.
And that can be really frustrating. And yeah, I don't have a lot of clout, so I can't tell them to start on time, I think. So, and I get.
But you're incomparable.
Yeah.
You know?
I am incomparable, but only in the editing portion, apparently. Yeah. So, timing is a little difficult sometimes, and just having to be, and Shad, you could probably definitely attest to this, just everybody's schedules are different all the time, and you have to be really flexible on everybody else's schedule.
Yeah.
Would you say that has something to do with working with creatives, right? Because, you know,
or media people.
Yeah.
I think journalists and media people just as a class are very, I don't know, I mean, from the beginning they've been putting things off, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all about crunch for them. And, you know, crunch works for some people, but when it comes to say, hey, here's this, can we have it in 25 minutes? You're like, well, not to the level you want it. But.
Exactly. We could try. Yeah. No. Timing. And everybody's super great that I work with. It's not. And nobody's vindictive.
Oh man, I was hoping that this could really we could open up some serious wounds on us. Yeah, Monomaniacs.
No way.
We got to spill some tea.
We got to get the NR people to listen somehow.
Yeah.
No, everybody I work with is super great. So it's just timing is probably the hardest.
And what are the best things? What do you like about it?
I do like that it's creative, and sometimes I like getting in there. It feels really good when somebody has this big mess up, or it's even a small mess up, and you're like, oh, I could fix that. It'll take me extra time, but I can fix it. And you cut it apart and you put it back together, and it sounds perfect, and you're like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
No,
it feels really rewarding.
It's really awesome. I have a couple of clients who, honestly, I think I encourage bad habits where they'll just send me, you know, terrible episodes, and then I'll throw them together, and I'm not going to say who, right? But I'll put them together, and then I'll, you know, make it actually, you know, the long pauses and the bad jokes, you know, kind of work them around, and, you know, make bad jokes sound funny, you know, etc. You know, you do it, and then they'll call you or they'll text you, and be like, oh, that wasn't the worst thing I've ever heard. I'm like, yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah, exactly.
What could it be? Joe Papalardo is wondering, what do you look for in a podcast in general, right? I mean, I don't know if this is necessarily from a professional standpoint or from a just generally
personal. I mean, do you listen to much just in your free time?
I do.
Other than Monomaniacs and
I listen to so much Monomaniacs. Guys, I was so excited when you started this podcast. I was like, finally.
Yeah. Sarah's
because you've been a long time
OG fan
of our radio show.
Off Topic. And
when I was living in New York, I was so crushed. I was like, no, they graduated because what day did you guys publish that on? Do you remember? Once a week.
I don't remember. Or did we record on a Thursday and publish it on a Tuesday? I don't know.
It might have been.
Yeah, because whatever day it came out on, I would listen. That would be my walk home listen, because I walked to and from work for the first 6 months that I lived there.
In New York, then, I mean, I spent a summer in New York, and having that thing to focus on is how you stay sane.
Oh, so great. Yeah, I love that show. So I listened to that. And then now this one. And I listened to a lot. I listened to Father Mike Schmidt's stuff. I listened to, there's a really good 20,000 Hertz is so good. I love that podcast. It's all about sound. So I listened to a lot. What was the original question? I'm sorry.
Oh, just what do you look for in the podcast?
Yeah. What do I look for in a podcast?
Yeah.
Good production. I mean, being a podcast producer, I definitely notice quality now. So, and I can get past that sometimes if the content is good enough.
Yeah. But, I feel like something that a lot of people don't think about often is that they're used to, say, making compromises on quality in certain areas of media production. So like somebody will send me audio and it'll be bad, and I'll say, well, this audio is bad, and they'll be like, oh, well, just spruce it up, and I'll spruce it up, and it'll still be bad, but it'll sound a lot better. And the thing is, though, if you're doing like video, it's easy for somebody to overlook bad video quality because of like buffering problems, etc. People are used to that; they can power through. But if your audio is, it becomes a lot harder for you to be like, I'm here for the long haul, because that's what's going on in your ears. So that's something that's definitely worth noticing. For me, I don't know. I like how your options. Oh, sorry, smacked your headphone wire there for a second. I like how your options are very, other than of course this podcast, very edifying and very informational. For me, when it comes to it, I listen to so many podcasts every day for my job, and then because my brain is so used to having audio going, I have to keep listening to podcasts when I'm not editing, and then I always listen to stuff that I don't have to think, or that's stupid or brain dead, right? And just
like this podcast,
not this podcast, but like comedians or something. That way I can clean my system out, because I like something will happen in the news and I'll hear every conceivable opinion about that thing, because I edit for a lot of different people on the political spectrum and like a lot of different organizations and whatnot. So it's just constant news over and over again. But the thing is that, ever since I started working in media, and this is probably something similar, you weirdly start to care less and less about those things because you have to survive. Yeah. Because you can't actually...
I didn't care about them in the first place. Yeah. I keep caring less about them. Yeah.
Beautiful.
You have to you have to make yourself a nerd, otherwise you're
crazy.
Yeah, you go crazy.
Yeah.
We usually only do 2 questions, but this one I think is going to be a nice sort of transition. Joe Popolaro is asking, are you working on any side projects right now, Sarah?
Am I working on any side projects? Yes. I always have 1,000 side projects, actually. Which ones would you like to hear about?
Well, I know that you've got an Instagram account for food that you make.
I do.
Right? And cooking that you do. Yes, which we were the 100th follow on that account, which I'm very proud of.
Nice.
Right? Monomaniacs went in there and brought that up to triple digits. So.
I saw that. I got really excited.
Yeah.
So, no, I do a lot of baking. I don't monetize it or anything. It's literally just for fun. And so I do a lot of baking. And actually, so I'm in 2 choirs and I direct 2 other ones. So a lot of music.
Nice.
Which was really fun. And I do a lot of baking because not only do I like it, but my flight instructor will knock off some of the price if I give him food. So that is something else I have been doing.
You mentioned this, and we talked about this before the show, but I'm sure that anybody who's listening right now's ears just perked up drastically. But you are taking flight lessons right now as we speak.
It's almost October. You could take flight lessons, but yes.
Rather not.
Are you trying to be a bird? Is that what this
Charlie
is?
Cook actually accused me of this.
Yeah.
Because he found out, he was like, no, she really just, all she wants to do is actually be in the sky closer to the birds. I'm like, it might not be wrong.
That's true.
No, it does actually not really have anything to do with birds. But I'm taking flight lessons. So I've got about 6 hours, and I have actually flown the plane. I have taken off. I have landed the plane.
Wow.
Not well.
Oh,
not
geez.
well.
To me, that would be the most stressful part out of anything. Yeah.
My instructor is fantastic. He's so chill. He's like, no. Now pull back more. You're like, okay.
It's the same DNA that you need to be a driving instructor, right?
So.
Yeah, you gotta. Well,
I feel like it's even a little more dangerous.
Well, yeah. I know it's the same DNA, but it's also a stronger gene. Yeah, you need a little bit more.
So are you, because you have to have like X amount of in-class hours, you have to have X amount of flight hours. How far along the track are you before you get something like you could
like a solo?
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Solo.
Okay. So you have to have, I think, at least 10 hours. With me, it's going to be more because it's expensive, and I just don't have the time to be there.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. It's cost prohibitive.
So it just takes a while, which is I'm okay with for right now. I'm applying for some scholarships, so we'll see what happens. But
flying scholarships.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So many flying scholarships. There's so many flying scholarships.
You have to write an essay.
Oh yeah. I have to have letters of recommendation. It's been really intense, it's super hard though, because a lot of them are super picky about what they want you to be going for. And right now I'm just going for my basic pilot's license and flying. It's called VFR, which is visual flight reference.
Yeah.
So then you could go on for IFR, which is instrument flight. And you can just fly in the clouds basically. You can fly
that's for higher flight.
For higher flight and stuff. And then you can get your rating so you can fly twin engine or like a different type.
What kind of organizations are giving out those kind of scholarships?
Oh my gosh! So I'm part of Women in Aviation.
So that's what I was saying. Is it like we want more women pilots?
Or
you
have no idea.
Yeah.
They're like, how many women can we get in aviation right now? They're desperate for it, and they want mechanics, and they want people who are interested in keeping up old warbirds. They're like you name it. They're looking
that'd be the only way I would do it is if I could fly a Spitfire.
Yeah. I want to fly a Mustang. Yeah. Can I meet Tom Cruise? Can he take me up in his Mustang? I'm like, please. I actually wrote that in a piece in hopes that someone would like pass it along to him and be like, oh, you should take her up. But that's not going to happen. So applying for scholarships, but you have to have, back on the amount of time, so you have to have like 10 or more hours and endorsement from your instructor and something else. So you have to do some like oral testing with your instructor, and then you can solo. Oh, and I think you have to have your student pilot's license, which I'm in the process
and
of.
And soloing, though, that's something where, you have to go to you have to rent a plane.
No, you do it. I think it's part of the lesson.
Oh, okay.
So like I would just go up and do like certain things myself. Like
but so after you get your license, though, that's something where you have to go and like if you want to fly, you have to rent one for the afternoon and then do that whole thing.
You have to go rent it. You have to. And there's certain distances you have to fly and certain maneuvers you have to do and certain things. And so you can get it'll probably take me like 40 or 50 hours to get my license. But then you have to get the amount of hours. Then you have to, there's like this big giant, you have to go through ground school. So I'm almost done with ground school. And then you have to take the FAA test, which is super intense. Apparently you only have to get like a 70 to pass.
Nice.
And I was like, I will aim for a 93.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, so that's my goal. And then you have to, once you've gotten all of your flight hours with your instructor, plus 3 hours of night flying, which is going to be fun.
Oh, that's terrifying.
I know. Yeah. Well, I said that to my instructor, and he was like, nah, that's actually really fun because it's like super clear, really quiet. And I was like, oh, okay, that'll be cool.
That does.
And like, if you're flying, and this is coming from someone who has not been initiated into the mysteries of aviation.
But there are many mysteries, let me tell you.
From what I've heard, though, it's pretty instrument focused, right? Like that's sort of what you're flying off of.
Well, sort of, but like right now, I'm not like I have to know the instruments. You are flying off of them, basically. If there are people who fly out there, I apologize if I'm making any major faux pas because I don't know a ton yet. I'm working on it. But you are looking at a lot of stuff. You are kind of understanding what the plane feels like. You are watching everything that's going on around you. So
how did you get into this? Were you on a date on at an airplane field?
There's nothing to do. Let's go watch the air show.
I did go to I went to the Dayton Air Show this year. I saw Blue Angels.
Fun.
That was so cool.
Blue Angels are cool.
Oh my gosh. I've never been to an air show.
Yeah.
I live next to the Air Force Base, so we've just kind of grown up around that. And I mean, Dayton Aviation is kind of in our veins. It's just kind of there. North Carolina, back off.
Yeah. So you're in a very competitive school then, right? A very competitive system, like a Top Gun level state, right? Where you've got a ton of classmates there with you because there's so much in the DNA of the state, right?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Wait, you don't have a rival who
is pushes you to become better?
Actually, I wish I did. I'm trying. I want my younger sister's super interested in this, but she's 14. You can't even like start taking lessons until
you can't give a 14-year-old a plane.
No, though you can get a glider or a balloon license when you're 14. Shocking.
I feel like a balloon license. I feel like that's pretty easy.
I feel like that'd be really dangerous.
It's dangerous, but it's as far as the actual mechanics of flying.
Yeah, I think
well, I mean, the big thing that always perplexes me about a balloon is how do you steer that damn thing?
You don't. You just let it.
You just go, and it's like, how do I get back to where I was?
You don't.
Somebody come and pick me up.
Yeah.
I see all these videos of balloons crashing into people, and it's just
not.
Yeah, I'd like to have control in that.
Gliders,
instance.
I feel like, would be even more intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you have to do it at like a designated field and everything.
Yeah. Does that allow you to use a squirrel suit too? Is that how you get your squirrel suit license?
Oh, that's a good
wind seat.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never looked
squirrel
into
suits.
that.
I hope
they're called squirrel suits.
Wingsuits?
Wingsuits, what I've heard.
Yeah.
But, I think probably were called squirrel suits, so the extreme community got a hold of it.
Yeah.
We're going X Games mode. We're not calling them squirrel suits, right?
We're calling them wingsuits.
Yeah. It's got to be cooler that way. But
all right, so real quick, I know that this is actually incredibly interesting, and I'd be happy to keep talking about it, but I know that people are still on their seats waiting for more of the top 5 birds.
Exactly.
Birds.
Yes, because we got number 1.
We got number 1, the the junk-eyed Dorco.
Yes.
Top on the list.
Top on the list there. Number 2 on the birds.
Number 2 on the birds is one I have not seen. I have only heard it. I really want to see a cerulean warbler.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was literally going to say, when you said I've only heard it, I was like, it's going to be a warbler of some
You
kind.
are correct. Yeah. I heard it, and oh my gosh, we stood in the same spot for so long. We actually, so you're not supposed to do this, but we do it. Hopefully this will not get me in trouble.
Well, you put like corn out or something? Is that against the rules?
No. We actually played recordings. So we've got recordings on our phones because, of course, we are birders. We have apps on our phones that help us track the birds.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
Yeah, it's
You have to have something to compare the sound you're hearing.
Oh, absolutely.
And the reason why you wouldn't want to do that, say, is because you wouldn't want to confuse the bird.
I have a story.
Whoa.
Yeah, I have a story. We stole somebody's boyfriend. I will tell that in a minute.
Yeah.
So... Actually, I have a really good story, but I'm going to save it for the Patreon.
Okay.
I'll save it for the Patreon
because
I can't get back to my younger brother. He never watches the show, but we'll have to save it, and it's a little spicy. So.
Sarah's younger brother. If you want to spend the $5.
No, he's 9. He won't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, cerulean warbler. We actually played the sound to try to get it to come closer to us.
Yeah.
It almost worked. It was so close.
Yeah.
But it didn't show up. And they're actually really hard to see. They nest in a certain area of Ohio. So we could get lucky. And I have chased them around sometimes. I think my mom has seen one. So you can actually, you're back on your question about cheating or whether or not you've actually heard something or seen something. You can put it down if you heard it and not seen it. It counts.
Okay. Oh, because it's so hard to see?
Some things are so rare. Like there are these birds that look kind of like chickens, like March chickens and stuff. Like Carlysoras. And I can't remember the other one on the top of my head, but they're basically impossible to see because they hide in the reeds, but they sound like they laugh at you. If you listen to a recording of it, one of my brothers hates these birds because I wish I could imitate the sound. Because
but it laughs at you.
It laughs at you. So actually, if you clap when you're at the marsh, it'll scare it and it'll make the sound. So we'll just go around like clapping at marshes.
That's funny.
But their sound, it sounds like they're laughing.
Do they fly or are they ground?
I think they can fly, but they tend to stay on the ground.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated with ground birds.
Yeah.
I like the idea, though, again, your brother, I hate this bird. Like, I'm so upset by this bird.
Well, he mocks us. This is my brother Joshua, and he's number 3 in line.
He's not bird initiated? He thinks it's funny that you guys like birds?
Us relentlessly about this. So we're always like, he'll be like, where's mom? And we'll be like, we'll give you one guess. He's like, oh, she's out birding again. So we had one time he did actually come with us on a trip, and he all of a sudden he turns around and he's like, oh, it's a bird. Oh, it was a leaf that was like falling down.
Well, see, that means he was into it, right? For that one moment, at the very least, he was excited about birds, but then it all came crashing down.
Honestly, the way that you're describing it reminds me a lot of fishing, right? Where
it's way more interesting than fishing.
Okay, well, it depends on who you ask, but
okay, it's okay. That'll be my no, fishing is dumb.
Yeah, fishing is dumb. That's the hot take.
Right? It's my hot take for the
I feel like though for fishing, it's similar as in that you travel and you go to a specific location and you kind of just have to be patient and very focused on your thing, right? It's not something that you can do while you're listening to music. It's not something that you do. It's very
it's true.
Involved. Yeah. And in the same way I would imagine birding is, where you're kind of trying to lure it or you're trying to find it.
Yeah, but at least you can like move. With fishing, you're just sitting there and you can't even see the stuff that you're trying. It's like a murky.
If you're fly fishing, it's different, but
it's a little bit more active there.
I've caught a bird while fishing.
How'd you manage that?
So if you
what kind of bird?
I don't know. It was like I think it was a swallow or something. But when you fly fish, you imitate a bug. Because you've probably seen this before, where they're throwing them over their heads over and over again, and they're flying. You kind of hover it above the water so that you basically trick the fish into thinking that there's like a mosquito or something that's flying around.
Okay, so there is some skill to this. Okay.
Yeah, but sometimes.
Sorry. Fishing community. Stop.
Fishing community.
They're going to come at you.
Yeah.
I'm going to get all these comments on
hundreds of views.
Do not check your DMs.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't say anything bad. Considering NR's, age demographic readership, that's a bad group to go after. But
I won't write anything bad about that.
Yeah, exactly. But one time we were out fly fishing with my grandpa, and I, threw the line, and a bird just, boom, got hooked, and we had to reel the guy in and let him go. So he was fine, flew off a little confused, but
have you seen that super famous baseball video where the bird just gets completely destroyed, disintegrates when he pitches the ball and throws it. He's some kind of pigeon.
That is something funny about birds is they're very, I don't know, it's sad, and I'm not saying this because I relish it, but they're explosive. Like when they go, they
really
pop.
Go. It's bad.
Yeah. So okay, we got another good bird.
Okay, so
we got a warbler.
Yes,
we have a warbler. So number 3, you guys have really put me on the spot. So I'm like, man, what birds do I know?
Just think of every bird.
Every bird, all of them.
Yeah.
Number 3 is a woodcock, and I will tell this. Have you guys seen a woodcock before?
I don't think so. I probably have, or maybe.
Well, so I hadn't seen it until I started to look for these, and I really wanted to see one of these. So they're the most ridiculous looking things. They're sort of chicken-like, and they're squat, and their eyes are set really far back on their heads, so they look kind of dumb. And they've got this super long bill. Sorry, I'm not up close enough on the mic.
Yeah,
they have a super long bill, and the way that they're proportioned, I mean, I can't even do it. You have to look up a video of these things. They actually have videos of them. And when they walk, they'll do this like step and wiggle, and then step with the other foot, and then wiggle.
You've
probably seen this. And then their babies will follow them behind them and like try to imitate it. So my dad and uncle saw this.
Yeah.
And so they and Molly's boyfriend Quentin, they'll all like get up in a line and they'll like do the woodcock dance together. We're like, oh yeah, this is really attractive, guys. So this is where the story comes in. So my mom and I, this is back in like March of COVID, we were out actually at the place where I had gone on this date.
Yeah.
And it was getting dusk, which is about when you can see woodcocks. And we're out kind of wandering around. It's dark and kind of getting darker and kind of rainy. We're like, oh, okay, well, we're not going to see it today. We're in this field. And so we started to walk back, and then did we hear? We heard it. And when they sound like a duck getting stepped on. They're like, wah. And you're like, oh, okay. So we were like, oh my gosh, it's a woodcock. So, but then we don't hear it again. Oh, dang it. So we look around, we make sure nobody else is there. We pull out our phone, or I think Mom had it on hers. And so she pulls up another woodcock, and she starts playing the sound. And so we're trying to lure it out of the woods. And we keep playing it, and all of a sudden it comes flying past us. And we're like, ah! So, sorry. So they're freaking out, and we're freaking out. And so the funny thing about woodcocks is they'll like fly past you, and then they've got this mating ritually dance thing that they do, and they'll go all the way up in the air, and then they'll start like spiraling. And when you hear them, it sounds like they're making some kind of sound, but it's actually their wings, the way that their wings are flapping. So they're kind of like a bat. So like they fly and fly and fly, and then they spiral down and down and down, and all of a sudden they land, and there's a second of silence, and they go, wah. Lose it. And then it kept doing that because it thought that we were female woodcocks. Well, so we stand there like chuckling. We're freaking out about this for a good 20 minutes or something, and it's showing off, and we can see it still. And then we're about to leave. All of a sudden, from way in the distance, we hear this really forlorn little we're like, oh no, we stole somebody's boyfriend. He left her for us.
That's terrible.
Wow.
That's hilarious.
Ever since that, so that's how we get our kicks in Ohio. We're just gonna make it.
Home wrecker right there. Home wrecker.
No idea.
Yeah.
So,
terrible.
That's funny.
Maybe that's only funny to us. But
I hope they're not endangered or anything.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
That's a good story.
No.
It's a good story.
All right. Well, so we're running out of time. We've only got like 2 more minutes, so we got 2 more birds to get through real fast.
Okay, so when I was in Arizona, we only have one type of hummingbird here in the Midwest, but they have so many over there. So we were down pretty close to Mexico. We were in Patagonia, and we saw, 7 or 8 or 9 different hummingbird species, and I really can't pick my favorite because they were all so beautiful. Yeah. But we did get to see a Lucifer hummingbird, which was super rare in that area and just incredible. So we didn't get to see the male, which has like this crazy cool purple throat on it. I think they call it a gorget or something. I can't pronounce it. But we did get to see the female. So I would put that on the list. And then number 5.
Duck. Just duck.
Oh, yeah, ducks. Yeah. I really, as long as it's not a mallard, ducks are cool.
Ducks are number 1 for me. Yeah. Love ducks. My wife is constantly giving me guff for liking ducks as much as I do.
Wait, do you have one that you like? Have you seen a wood duck?
Oh, so here's the thing. I'm not a duck aficionado. I appreciate the form. I appreciate God really hit it out of the park when he ducked.
Yeah.
Yes.
The platonic duck is the ideal bird, right?
I love the way they waddle. I love the way they quack. They're just silly little creatures. I have nothing but respect for ducks.
You should try to see a pintail. Pintails are really cool.
Yeah.
Gadwalls are really cool. the pattern on them is really pretty.
Cool.
So, and also mergansers. We always thought it was merganser. It's a merganser. And there's like 3 different kinds, and I think they're really cute. Oh, buffle heads are super cool. Black and white, and they have.
I've seen a buffle head. Yeah.
Those are awesome.
Those are great.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, before we go, do you have anything to plug? Do you want to plug your Instagram account for foods?
Yes. Yeah. If you live near me, maybe you'll get some of my food. So it's at Duck Pond Kitchen. Yes.
And we have received as when she walked into the Stoods, she brought us some cheesy bread, and it looks absolutely delicious.
I'm excited to have some.
I hope you like it.
Yes.
Yeah,
so follow her on Duck Pond Kitchen.
Yeah, Duck Pond Kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was not because of my obsession with birds. It was because my sister really likes ducks. So it was the name of our house was the Duck Pond. So
there you go.
There you go.
Duck Pond Kitchen. Yeah, so follow it if you like food. If not, you're not going to hurt my feelings. That's okay.
Yeah, and you can listen to her work on every NR podcast. So.
Yeah, on every NR podcast. And I write for National Review, so I publish every 2 weeks.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you. It's done.
All right, cool. We'll take a quick break and then we can hop on. That was great.
Fantastic. Good.